are you guys doing tonight? I want to say welcome to the Adventure Talk series sponsored by Hanover Adventure Tours. We're happy to have you all here tonight. For our Adventure Talk, we're going to have Eric Janson join us to talk about his journey on the Colorado Trail. First off, would love to explain a little bit about Hanover Adventure Tours and who we are. We work towards to be the hub for adventure in the Upper Valley. We offer electric biking, water activities such as canoeing, kayaking, and paddleboarding. Also, we have hiking and many different tours, including Dartmouth historical tours to backroads tours and so much more. So we really hope to continue to have that. But for tonight, we have our Adventure Talk series. The Adventure Talk series, we are looking to have this every Thursday at 6 p.m. Our first one was early this November about what's the buzz on electric bikes. And we learned a little bit about the electric bikes we have here at our store. But for tonight, we'll have Eric Janson. Eric Janson will talk about his journey on the Colorado Trail. He'll first start out with just kind of the distance of the trail as well as the elevation and how you pack your fears when first starting out on that trail. He'll also go through some experiences he may have had from some great pictures and some fun stories. Just so you all know, we'll have these Adventure Talk series and we have many more coming up in December. So we hope to see you guys there and to continue coming along and learning a little bit more about us. But for now, again, this is Hanover Adventure Tours. My name is Jane. I'll be hosting this event. And just so you guys know, this is an interactive event. If you look on the lower hand of your screen, you will see a couple of icons. The first thing you'll see maybe is a hand. Now you can raise your hand whenever you'd like, and Eric will kind of pause the presentation and maybe answer that question if it's time. There also is a segment there that says Q&A. That's for question and answer. So this is interactive. If you have any questions whatsoever, I would definitely encourage you guys to write it there. We'll take the time to answer everything you may have. And that's what we're looking forward to. We want, this is for you guys to learn a little bit about hiking and the adventure it takes to take the Colorado Trail on or something else. So we hope you all enjoy this talk. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. Other than that, I am going to switch the host mode to Eric now. And we're going to enjoy a 45-minute presentation about the Colorado Trail. So now I'm going to walk towards you, and I'm going to change Eric to be a host, and I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you all.
Okay, thanks, Jane. We're going to talk a little bit about two things. One is that I did the Colorado Trail in 1989, and it was the second year, the second backpacking season of the trail. It really opened in '87, too late in the year for anybody to backpack. In 1988, 13 people completed the Thru-hike, and most of them being on the board, and people who had been involved with the trail, getting it set up. And then I did it in 1989. For a long time, you'll see on the screen some statistics, basically 96, greater than 10 people completed it. And then in 2006, it went up to 50. And I think what happened is that social media started to take over. Facebook came online in 2004 and 2006, so people started to see it in 2010. And then if you look at 2013, right in that period there, Cheryl Strayed's book, Wild, came out in 2013, and then you see that it starts to gain some speed in terms of the number of people that did it. 18 and 19 being anomalies, and then 2020, 559 people are on record. That is through hikers and section hikers who may have completed it. So even with the COVID, I don't think that 551 is really off the beaten path there. The trail starts in Denver, just southwest of Denver at Waterton Canyon. We spend 5 miles hiking up a road owned by the Denver Water Authority, and winds all the way down to Durango. The official length of the trail is 485 miles. It was 469 miles in 1989. Most people call it 500 miles because you can't really do it in 485 miles because you have to walk to get to resupply spots and things like that. The little loop you see in the middle is what's called the Collegiate Loop. The east side, the right side on the map is the original trail, and the left side is what's called Collegiate West. And that is a section of trail that is the Continental Divide Trail. And in 2012, the Colorado Trail Foundation took over that section for maintenance because the Continental Divide Trail Association had gone bankrupt. So they took it, and now you have a 160-mile loop right in the middle.
Hey, Eric.
Yes.
I don't see your screen, so I'm not sure if there was something to change there.
Okay.
I just got a couple of comments.
All right, I reshared it. How's that?
All right, that looks good. Okay.
All right.
Thanks again.
So if you can hear me, you didn't miss anything. I haven't changed any slides. But when I started the trail in 1989, I was finishing grad school. I was looking for a trail. The AT seemed to be a little too long for me, too much time, and working at EMS. There was a book that came in, and it was on the Colorado Trail, and I thought, okay, let's try that. Now, I didn't really know anything about through hiking. I didn't even know what through hiking was. I learned what a through hiker was on the trail. I had done a lot of backpacking and scouting, and really the longest trip I'd ever done was about 80 miles, and it was highly supported. It was at Philmont Scout Ranch in New Mexico. So I literally, on June 13th, 1989, I flew to Denver, got in a taxi and drove to the trailhead. And I didn't have any plans other than the fact that I knew where my mail drops were and where the supplies were. The trail's broken up into 28 segments, and then there are 5 segments and on the Collegiate West, which is the left side there. We'll get to, this is the elevation profile of the trail, just to give you an idea. It's it's high. It's above 10,000 feet on average, and the Collegiate West is above 11,000 feet on average. And there's sections that are large sections that are above 12,000 feet. And one of the things that talk about, you can't pack this, but worrying about altitude, there is no way to know how you're going to affect altitude or your altitude is going to affect you until you get out there. I'm fortunate. I don't have such a problem. Starting the trail in 2020, I was fortunate to have my youngest son with me. I had a dream to have backpack this trail again with my sons, and the younger one was in agreement. The older one said, well, 2 weeks is enough for me, so I don't think I'll be doing it, and that's okay. So my small sample size says that brainwashing for their entire lives works 50% of the time. Now, just to give you an idea, when I say I knew nothing, I didn't. So here's my cook kit, and the weight on this thing, just the stuff to cook with, was 1 pound 5 0.8 ounces, 1 pound, 6 ounces. On this last time around, I just took this pot, the center pot there, for cooking for 2, and that's only 7 ounces. You know, I didn't know. And I thought, well, maybe I'll need all this stuff. I didn't. Something else that's a little different. Here's the Coleman Peak 1 stove that I took on the trail. You know, that alone weighed 2 pounds, 5 ounces without fuel. Liquid fuel it takes. The jet oil in the center is what we took this last time. And that weighs 13.1 ounces, so considerable difference. Fuel is one of those things that I personally struggle with in terms of fear. When in 1989, the Peak 1, I carried a quart-size liquid fuel container to refill this thing. So there's another 2 pounds that was added to my pack. Even on this last trip, didn't know how long the fuel would last. We couldn't get fuel. There was a shortage across the country. So, you know, after we got off the plane, we took a train down to Denver. We walked to the REI and bought a larger canister than we wanted. That canister lasted us for almost the entire trip. So we carried an extra smaller canister that we picked up at our first resupply for the rest of the trip. There's a fear for you, running out of fuel. So extra stuff I didn't need. Here's a comparison from lighterpack.com. And if anybody's interested in getting on, talking about equipment later, we can do that. But you can see the differences. The important things here are that in 1989, my base weight was 35.69, but the total weight was 40.28. And in 2020, my total weight was 24.7. And you know, that's not including water, that's not including food. So, you know, if you look at the 1989 number, 40.28, think about this. Out of a resupply with water, I'm carrying probably close to 60 pounds. So my feet felt much better on this time around. So here we are at Waterton Canyon, which is the start of the trail. It's a long 5-mile road that you just walk up, and it's nothing special about it. A lot of people. With COVID, I had spent the previous 4 months thinking about the trail, wondering if we could even do it. And the trail, the Waterton Canyon had just opened up the week that we started. It had been closed since March because it's a the water authority just closed it. So we were going to have to take an alternate route. So we were fortunate to be able to start there. Much of the first part of the trail is through forest like this. Fairly wide trail, pretty easy. The thing that's perfect about the Colorado Trail is it starts at 5,500 feet. So even if you're coming from Florida, or I'm coming from Pennsylvania, which is like 700 feet above sea level, you're not going to have too much trouble starting out. And as I started to say earlier, with altitude, you don't know. It doesn't have anything to do with age or physical fitness. It's just physiological, I guess is the right word. And so my son, who was 17 at the time, in very good shape, he had a tougher time with the altitude than I did. Maybe the second or third day, we had a couple climbs that, well, actually the first day we had some climbs that you could feel it. But he was feeling it more than I was, and trouble sleeping and headaches and things. So as you're coming through on the trail the first couple days, you're really in the foothills. So you're seeing these rounded mountains. And you get a couple views, but you're in the trees a lot at the beginning. Looking back, you can't see it, but in this little notch here, we could see, because the pollution was so low, we could see Denver through that notch, which was interesting because with COVID, not as many people were driving. This area is from a 1996 fire, the Buffalo Creek fire, caused by humans, and that's how long it's taken this to come back. It takes decades for an area, especially at altitude, to come back after a fire. Here we go up the Lost Creek Wilderness, which is one of the first wilderness areas you hit. This is about a 5-mile meadow that you walk up. It's beautiful. You see a lot of wildlife depending on what time of the day you're on the trail. And this is looking back down the other way. It was just a phenomenal section. Then we start to get some views of the mountains, the real whitecaps, the taller ones that we're going towards. And this is getting towards Breckenridge and the 10-mile range, Breckenridge, Frisco area. Looking back, we had come from that notch on the left with a blowdown in the foreground. Here's one of the most photographed sections of the Colorado Trail. I think everybody takes this picture or a picture similar to it through an aspen forest that's just beautiful. And the trail is soft and flat. If you've heard of the show South Park, you can see it better here in the foreground or the background in the middle. This is South Park, and this is a area where a lot of cattle graze, and there's ranches down there. And where we are is up near the sort of the winter pasture where they used to bring the cows, but I don't think they're doing it so much anymore. We heard later that a lot of the ranchers are giving up and leaving. So on the trail, you've got the Colorado Trail Marker. Really is a confidence marker. It's not everywhere, and it's not in any of the wilderness areas. And then for about 200 miles, the Continental Divide Trail shares the trail. This is John, my son, on Georgia Pass, which was our first major pass. There's a sort of a panoramic view. This is right above the Breckenridge and Frisco area. And as you come across this, you drop down and you start heading towards Breckenridge. You can see Breckenridge there in the middle, some of the condos. This was an interesting morning because in the morning it was cloudy and snowy. And then as we come down, this is more Breckenridge, and you can see the ski slopes in the background. As we came down, it got warmer. In fact, it got hot. So then we go through another burn area, and we're getting closer and closer to Breckenridge, which was our first stop, and just some really beautiful views, nice meadows with flowers. And this is Frisco, which is where we chose to stay. Frisco is a little bit more low-key than Breckenridge, Breckenridge being a sort of a Disney-like experience. That's Copper Mountain. And we had 21 days of no rain. So it rained at night a little bit, but we didn't have any rain during the day at all for 21 days. But the clouds were spectacular. And this is looking back towards Silverthorne, which is right next to Frisco. They have a free shuttle bus that the trail crosses a highway. You stop at the bus stop, and you get on the shuttle, and you can go anywhere you want, including over to Copper Mountain. And some people either slack pack it or they just skip the section between Breckenridge and Copper Mountain. Looking down into Breckenridge there. This is up between the peaks as we're crossing over and going to drop down into Copper Mountain. And this is where it takes a right and goes down to Copper. If you look in the back right there, there's a reservoir and tailing ponds. See another picture of that. But there used to be a mountain right there, and that mountain was mined out. It was about this elevation here back there, and it's now gone. This is from Copper Mountain. You walk up a long meadow, and we're headed to Searle Pass. And Searle is not there, it's further up, but that's where we're going. We're going up to the snow. There's an interesting cabin right near there called Janet's Cabin that is by a series of cabins that you can backpack to that you can pay a fee. The 10th Mountain Division, which is a historic organization that manages them, runs them. So this is just coming up to the peak there. There's the reservoir, tailing ponds. Here's where the mountain used to be, and then you can see they're continuing to do some mining. And then we were between Searle and Kokomo Pass. Searle Pass is right here. Nope, I'm sorry, it's right here. You can see my cursor, and we had to come across that. Lots of streams and melt and sloppy mud and stuff there, but it could have been worse. Next morning. So we're getting some nice views as we're getting into the more rugged mountains. This is called Rainbow Sight. This is where we camped after a day where it just wasn't a fun day. It was a lot of climbing through the trees, rocky. We were just tired. So this was the end of our day. This is a view from the top of Mount Elbert. It's the tallest 14er, tallest mountain in Colorado. Climbed it, camped down below, packed up in the morning, left our packs, and climbed to the top. John had, by this time, gotten over his altitude problem. He climbed this in 2 hours. It took me 3. And here we are on top. Now, down below Elbert, which Elbert is this one up here, is a place called Twin Lakes Village, which was a resupply for us. We spent 1 night there after picking up our resupply at the general store. And then you walk around Twin Lakes. Really beautiful day, a little hot, little dry. And then we climbed from, this is Twin Lakes down here, and this is the Elbert Forebay. There's a power station here, and they run the water down and generate energy there. We camped halfway up this trail to the Hope Pass, which some people call No Hope Pass because it's 3,500 feet and 3.5 miles. So it's a climb. John's arriving, and he bonked on the way up. We decided to have breakfast at the pass, and he ran out of steam. And it was the last time that I beat him to the top of a pass. But we had a nice hot breakfast up there, and we're sitting behind this marker. The wind was whipping there, and we had a nice protected spot right there. And then you drop down, and the terrain changes, as you're dropping down from Hope Pass. Here's one of our favorite campsites at Lake Ann, right below Lake Ann Pass. And there's a really beautiful lake right here, freezing cold. You can go in for a couple minutes, but you don't stay in too long. And this is Lake Ann Pass right up here, right in that, there's a cornice up there. And this is climbing up, and it's hard to get the scale. It is a lot bigger than it looks in these pictures. You can see the cornice up above. And when you get there, here's the trail down here, and there's how you get across. You've got to climb across there, and as John said, it was terrifying because you wouldn't die if you slipped, but you would get banged up pretty good if you went down into that talus in the scree. And this is looking back from the pass. We camped right over here. So beautiful, beautiful spot, and hard to get to, so it's not overcamped. This is coming up to Cottonwood Pass, and we're at this point we're on the Collegiate West. And after we go through this pass, we had a day or a section which is 5 climbs and all above tree line. We were fortunate in this period because we had 5 days of not a cloud in the sky. So it was just beautiful. This is looking back from that pass. One of the lakes on that section. This was a little less scary. It was a lot mushier, but a lot less scary. Somebody asked what slack packing is. Slack packing is when you give your pack to somebody and they drive it to the other end and you have a day packed with water and whatever else. And you pick up your pack on the other side. So you're still doing the trail, you're just not carrying your pack. And no, I did not carry crampons. There was no place you really needed crampons. Micro spikes would have been the most I would have taken, but didn't need those either. These snow fields you just had to be careful. And generally you weren't the first to come across. So if you just stuck your foot into the footprints all the way across, you were pretty secure. Just a nice picture. And this gives you an idea of what the Collegiate West is. This is really for scale. John was about 3 minutes ahead of me. He's right here. You can't really see him. It's hard to see in this picture, but it was just absolutely breathtaking how big everything is when you're out there. We were hoping that these cornices up here might break off while we were going through there so we could see them fall, but they never did. There were quite a few cornices in that area. Here's one of the few pictures of me that John took. And this is just really cool. The light was really interesting during that sunset. Here we are at Hancock Lake. It was a day that we had really thought we were going to camp right here, and we got there in the mid-afternoon and we just took a shoes off break and drank a lot of water, and we're feeling pretty good. And we ended up doing 20 miles that day. We got to our next resupply a day ahead of time, so we got to do a 0 at the Monarch Mountain Lodge, which was fascinating. Barb, I'm sorry you can't see my face. I'll do that later. I'm not sure how to do it right now. But we got there ahead of time, and Monarch Mountain Lodge was interesting. It's run by a bunch of 20-year-olds, less than 20-year-olds, really 18, 19, 20-year-olds during the summer. And they're all stoners, and it was fascinating to watch them fight each other. And but you know what? The showers were hot, and there lots of pressure. The rooms were clean, the beds were soft, and we got a chance to go into Salida, which was fun. This is the valley that we walked down into to get to the next trailhead near Monarch. If you see the trees here and some of the pictures, you'll see that there's a ton of trees that are dead. The mountain beetles are devastating mostly the higher elevations as far as I can tell. The pine trees, they're killing them. And it is, in areas, it is a disaster waiting to happen, because if these things catch on fire, they're going to go up like, it's just a big tinderbox. It's worse than, I think, having underbrush. This was just a beautiful mountain lake. There were 3 or 4 in this climb. We stopped here and had lunch. If we couldn't camp someplace that was beautiful, we at least tried to have lunch at a beautiful spot. And this was one of those. And then This is a site that we dove into. We were finishing up the Collegiate West. We've been primarily above tree line, and we were coming up, and a storm came in, and lightning started. So we stopped on the trail and under a tree, and we're perfectly dry, just waiting for the rain to stop. And a couple mountain bikers had passed us probably an hour before, and we looked down into down into a little meadow, maybe, I don't know, 300-400 yards away from us. And all of a sudden we see the two mountain bikers running across this meadow and running down. And they had left their bikes and were afraid of the lightning. So they were diving down there. And we heard later from another thru-hiker that they had gone back up that night and retrieved them. But anyway, we couldn't see any of this view until the next morning, because it was all socked in. And about 4:30 or 5 in the morning, that was the view from our tent. So it was quite a nice sight. And here is the end of the Collegiate West, where the Continental Divide Trail peels off and goes on its merry way. You cross on the regular Colorado Trail, you cross the Continental Divide 11 times. If you take the Collegiate West route, you're obviously crossing it much more. This is up on Sergeant's Mesa, which is just a big flat area and through trees and things. And the light was just interesting. I didn't capture it very well, but there were a lot of cattle up in this area. This was a day that we had planned. John wanted to do a marathon, so we actually ended up doing 27.1 miles that day. And there's a fence you can't see right here. We're right up and next to a ranch. It's private property, but it had rained the last 2 or 3 hours of the 27-mile day, and then we got this beautiful. As we're ending it, we get this rainbow, and that was from our campsite, our sunset. So it was clearing up, and the next day, that's how clear it is, and we're heading up towards San Luis Peak and San Luis Pass. And this is right below San Luis Peak. San Luis, the mountain is to the right here. My son got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and climbed it. It was only about 1.25 miles up to the top from where we are camped here. And he spent an hour by himself watching the stars, and then some people joined him, and he watched the sunset and came down. And we were on the trail by 7:45 that morning. I did the tallest 14er in Colorado. I didn't need to do any more. And so this is the next morning. You see how beautiful the scenery is. And here's John pointing to the top of San Luis that he had climbed the night before, or the morning before. Climbing it in the dark, he said, was a little hairy. And this is our last pass before, actually this may be San Luis Pass, right before we drop down into Creed, which was another resupply. Now Creed, you think about your fears, and we had mail drops at all of our resupply spots. And in 1989, I backpacked the 10 miles from the trail down to Creed. This time, I didn't want to do that. And there's a trail angel network that has grown up around the trail. So I arranged for a shuttler to pick us up at 3 miles in, so we wouldn't have to walk the full 10. And didn't even need to do that, because within 5 minutes of getting to the place we were meeting the trail angel, we had 3 offers for rides. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen you know, regarding with COVID, I didn't know if hitchhikers were acceptable, if anybody would pick us up or anything. So that was a fear of mine. You know, how are we going to get to places? So, so somebody asked, how much did you train for the hike? You know, my opinion is you can't really train for a through hike. You can be in good physical shape, but you know, and that's the biggest thing. And then from there, you know, you can get on a Stairmaster if you want, but it's not going to be the same. Your ankles aren't going to twist and turn. You're not going to have the elevation. So, you know, somebody else asked what time of the year it was. We started on June 23rd and finished July 30th. And now we talk about fears. And one of them is, you know, somebody just asked, where do you poop? And you poop where the bears do. So, you know, I don't know if that question was serious or not. So the trail is well marked, or it's easy to follow, I should say. Now, it's much easier to follow now than it was in 1989. There were a couple places where I, you know, had to backtrack because the trail forked and you didn't know which way to go. They have a lot more confidence markers at the intersections. And, you know, if you look at the right, on the right here, the trail is like that, and you pretty much can't get off the trail. John and I did lose the trail at one place, and it was really at a place where there was just easy access. It was near a trailhead, and there were sort of trails going off, and it said take a right after you cross a bridge. So we crossed the log thinking that was the bridge and took a right, and pretty quickly figured out we were in the wrong place. So we walked up another maybe 15 yards over a berm, and there was a real bridge, real footbridge. So, you know, you can get lost a little bit, but it's not too bad. This is, it had been raining. This is after Creed. And I lost track a little bit on our mail drop there in Creed. No, I didn't. I did tell you the story of, well, no, I didn't tell you the story. So we get to the mail drop, and our mail drop's not there. And the postmaster told us that she'd been having a lot of trouble. And of course, we don't have any news, so we don't know what's going on. And the next day I went back, and she said, nope, didn't show up. She said, I've been having a lot of trouble. They're sending our mail from, instead of sending it from Denver to me, they're sending it to Albuquerque and then up to us. And she said that the Postmaster General is slowing the mail down, but I don't know why. So, you know, we had to go to the supermarket and wing it, which was fine. It just was a little different, and they don't have a lot of variety there. We found out later she did call and leave me a message. It took just about a month for that package to get from Pennsylvania to Durango, or I'm sorry, Creed, and then about 3 weeks to get back. So, because they do send it back. So this is right above Snow Mesa. That's Snow Mesa to your left there. We camped right at the bottom of that butte there that you see. Sort of around it and down on a flat spot. This is at the top of Snow Mesa. You can look here, there's a valley that was full of cloud or fog or something, which was interesting. The next morning, we woke up that morning and our rainfly was completely solid ice. So that was kind of fun. So this is going across Snow Mesa, another place where they have a cattle markers on two sides of an area where you're allowed to run the cattle. And I don't know if they still have cattle up here or not, but there's another shot of that mist or cloud or something down in that valley. Here's how you get down from Snow Mesa. And we had met two people who were through hiking, and one of them twisted her ankle on the way down here, and so their through hike was over. We found that out, that she had to hobble to the next trailhead. Here's the high point, 13,271. All morning we were hiking in a cloud. So there's hardly any pictures coming up to here, but this is the high point of the trail. So somebody asked, when I refer to Collegiate West, there's a loop in the center. I can go back to it at the end of the presentation, but there's a loop in the center and the trail splits. And you go left and you go east, and you go right and you go west. And west is 5 miles longer than east. So if you do east, you're doing 490 miles instead of 485 for the trail, the official trail. This was right after that picture of the high point. Down in this valley here is Lake San Cristobal, which is a sort of a resort area. It's a lake that was formed by a landslide, thousands of years ago. But the clouds were extremely dramatic all day. Another shot of that. We're getting close to my favorite part of the trail, which I'll try not to talk about too much, but it was just spectacular. And even though the weather was kind of drizzly and rainy, the clouds were just constantly changing, and it was really fascinating to watch. It didn't really pour much. It was a little rainy, but it wasn't bad. There's another spot where there's just this cloud down low. And here we are. This is my absolute favorite place on the trail. It is down, we're going down into the Elk Creek drainage that is in the Wemanooch Wilderness. And it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, this spot, we met a group called the 4 a.m. crew, which was 4 people hiking together, and they would get up at 4 a.m. and they would hike, and they would be finished by noon every day because they were worried about lightning. So, there's a fear that they just didn't want to deal with it. So they were in their tents or hanging out in camp by noon every day. But they did not see this, because when they got here, it was all socked in. And there are the 24 switchbacks that go down to the Elk Creek. You have to go all the way down these switches, back and forth, back and forth. Another more dramatic shot. And this is the official sort of, I didn't take this shot, gives you an idea of kind of what that area looks like at a little different time of the year with a little bit more sun and not so gray. But shot going down, there's the Elk Creek, the headwaters of the Elk Creek. Sort of a scale picture with John there. Looking back up where we had just come from. This was just sort of, it was just an interesting place. The light was just kind of weird. The clouds were, I don't know, there's just something about it that just struck me. So I took that picture. Now, here's another fear. There's this section that we were on in the Wemanooch Wilderness down the Elk Creek drainage. There are 5 avalanche blockages. And, they say it's tough to get across, and I didn't know what we were going to experience. So I was just kind of thinking about it, knowing it was coming. And this is a small one. It's pretty small. It's not that big a deal, but it was hairy to get across it. Some of these avalanche areas are 20 feet deep. And I'm not sure if I said it earlier, but you're amazed, or at least I was amazed when I saw what an avalanche area looked like. Literally, the entire side of a mountain is scraped clean as the snow comes down, and it piles all these trees. And I'm not kidding you, it's scraped clean. Roots, everything, just gone. And this is you can see John here in the center. This is a little bit bigger one. And balancing and going across this was a little tricky. You had to take your time. Here he is in one of the deeper ones. Since we were there, they have cleared 2 of the avalanche blockages. This is in the drainage. We stopped. It was raining, so we stopped. To the left there was a couple pine trees, so we had a kitchen area that was absolutely bone dry, even when it was raining. And so this is the next morning, and it got a little bit more dramatic as the sun came up. It was a really, really nice place to camp. Super flat. And this is the next morning as we're going down to the Animas River. And the Animas River is where the Silverton to Durango narrow gauge rail line is. And you can take a historic steam train up and down the canyon. But the rail got washed out, so the train wasn't running this year. That's the Animas River. We had gone down, we'd come down, and now we're going back up to Mullis Pass that is above Silverton. One shot here, and then here's a little later shot higher up, and clouds had gotten a little bit more interesting. Different camera. And then you get up top, and this is near Mullis Pass. You've got these sort of rolling hills. This is the campsite. At Mullis Pass, there's a campground, Mullis Pass campground, that's owned by the town of Silverton. You can send resupplies there, so that's where we sent it. And in 1989, I had met a guy and his then girlfriend. We sort of bonded over the fact that we'd both been to Philmont Scout Ranch in New Mexico and hiked for a couple of days, sort of back and forth. We never camped together, but we talked and we corresponded afterwards and reconnected on Facebook. And he drove up from New Mexico, he and his wife now, and they met us and took us into Silverton for burgers. So, you know, the trail will take care of you in a lot of ways. Someone asked how we knew about trail angels. Actually, you know, trail angels often are just somebody who's at a spot and they're handing out sodas or water or whatever else. And we met a couple of those. But the shuttlers list is something that the Colorado Trail Foundation you have to ask for it and they'll send it to you. And so, you know, you can call them up and they'll come and pick you up. So what I would do is, we didn't have any reservations any place that we stayed or anything. And we didn't know when we were going to get to these places. So we'd get to the top of a mountain and try to get a signal, and we'd call, and we knew when we'd be there, and so we'd arrange for it. But only one did I arrange for ahead of time. The other one at Monarch, I just called her up and she came and got us and for free. She just took us into Salida and we hung around for a day, and then she picked us up and took me to Walmart so I could get a new memory card for my phone, and just because she likes doing it. And a lot of people are do that. In Creed, there is somebody who does charge, but it's not much, and you know, it's a tough one. Someone asked about the weather, highs and lows. I mean, the high was the fact that we had 5 days of not a cloud in the sky, and we were up high above tree line, so it was just beautiful. Well, there was one day where, well, I'll get there in a minute. I'll tell you about that one in a second. But there were places, 2 days really, where we got rain and it was cold, and that was the low. But you know, it wasn't so bad because you were moving and you were staying warm. So this is our campsite above Mullis Pass, and then we get into, you can see that the terrain changes. No, I'm not telling my buffalo story. Somebody just different trail. So, you know, it was a beautiful day after Mullis. Just phenomenal. And that's a conglomerate rock. Just kind of an interesting little spot in the trail. And you know, I recognize sections of the trail just by the not only the mountains, but the vegetation. These little things, whatever they are. I never looked it up, but they were along this section of the trail. And you also had a lot more red mountains on this section. This is one of the passes. I think this may be, no, I'm not sure which pass this is. This is, I know the pass, it's the one where we were following the 4 a.m. crew all day. We could see him way in the distance, but we didn't catch him until later. This is in the morning, and then that's the other side dropping down. This is actually out of order. This is before that pass. Just a nice shot of the trail. So every morning, for the most part, it was nice. Now this is Blackhawk Pass, and those few pictures that you see beforehand were that same day. And we're crossing up through Blackhawk Pass just before lunchtime, and then coming down the other side. And actually, no, so this is coming down the other side. This is not coming down the other side. Sorry about that. So Blackhawk Pass, we go down a little bit further, and we have lunch. And it starts raining during lunch. And we're sitting under another pine tree that is absolutely bone dry, even with the rain. It gets raining harder and harder. We put on our rain pants and jackets and start going. And we've had about a 50-minute torrential downpour. It just, water was running down the trail, and all you could do is laugh and keep going. So it was an interesting section. This is coming up to Indian Trail Ridge, and the reason that I took this picture is last time I was here, I didn't see any of this because it was all socked in, and it was just beautiful. This is quite a bit later in the day. All the clouds have cleared off. This is this is another shot of Indian Trail Ridge, and there's sections here where, if you can imagine being socked in and you can't see anything on both sides of you, you're just walking along a trail. There are sections that are like that. So it was pretty fascinating to see it when we were actually able to see something. This is our last pass. This is Kennebec Pass. And this, then you can see down in the valley there is our first shot of an area where that's where Durango is. And here we are at the end. And just to give you an idea of how phenomenal, I mean, people take care of you on the trail. I asked somebody to take a picture. She was unloading her mountain bike, took a picture. What are you guys doing? She didn't know about the Colorado Trail. And so she was getting ready to go, and I said, okay, well, we got to go and see if we can hitchhike. And she said, where are you going? She put her bike back in her car, and she drove us to our hotel, or motel, that I had called ahead from a mountaintop to find out if I could get a reservation. You remember that with COVID, they had 50% occupancy at the time. So I was never sure if we were going to have a spot to stay in these places. And Twin Lakes, we called from a mountaintop, left a message. We got there, they had our room for us. They had left me a message back saying they were going to do it, but as it turned out, we were the only ones staying there that night. And the next day, other people showed up and they didn't have reservations ahead of time, and he wouldn't let them stay. So he opened it up just for us, which was phenomenal. So here's a comparison between 89 and 2020. You know, start to finish, 45 versus 37, 0 days, 6 versus 3. I only saw 9 other thru hikers in 1989. And I only know of one of those 9 that finished. So, you know, and he finished after me. I passed him. I'm a slow hiker and I passed him. This is the base pack weight. And then, so the taxi from the trail from the airport to the trailhead was $50 back in 1989. And that was from Stapleton Airport, which was pretty close in. This time I called a trail angel and she picked us. Well, we took the train from the airport to Denver, walked to REI, took an Uber to our hotel, and then a trail angel picked us up the next morning and took us to the trailhead for free. So that's the end of my presentation. And I will see if I can get my face back on here. I'm not sure if I can do that. Jane, I hope you can hear me. And let's see.
I can.
Okay. Oh, so let's see. Questions. Snakes and other wildlife seen. Well, I didn't see any snakes this time. So I've seen rattlesnakes, but not this time. The wildlife was considerably less. We saw some moose. We had a moose walk almost right through our site one night while we were making dinner. And we saw some, like, I think 8 or 9 moose from a very long distance going up one of the meadows. A lot less wildlife because there's so many more people out. There were just a lot of people on the trail at the trailheads because of COVID. So let's see. Favorite aspect of the trip. You know what the favorite aspect of the trip was? Was the fact that I had my 17-year-old son with me, and I had time with him for all 37 days one-on-one, which was just amazing. And I think his older brother is maybe interested in doing a little shorter trip, so we'll be maybe considering planning something next time. Someone asked about bears, grizzly bears, black bears, brown bears. Yeah, they're out there. There are no grizzly bears in Colorado. They're black and brown, I think, maybe mostly black. I didn't see any. We heard about some through gut hooks, which I did not use much because I take my phone and I throw it in the bottom of my pack, and so does my son, and we don't use electronics at all unless we're trying to make a reservation or, you know, we got to figure out where we are. One day we had a really long day and we pulled it out to look on gut hooks to figure out exactly where we were, and it turned out we were 0.2 miles or 0.3 miles from where we were going to camp. So we were just exhausted and wanted to know. So anyway, there are bears, but we didn't see any. They're pretty much, when you're above tree line, they're not up there. And we weren't camping near trailheads, which is what a bear will do. They'll go to the easy food. So it really wasn't a concern. Weight of the pack. So let me go back really quick. A couple of things people asked that I can show you really quick. Probably an easier way to do this, but okay. So here's the dates: June 23rd to July 30th. And by the way, this year it was a high snow year, but it was a fast melt year. So normally, in 1989, there was no way to find this out because, like, you couldn't. Who do you call? You just didn't know. I guess you could call rangers. So I started 10 days earlier. But normally the trail is open, 100% passable, including the Collegiate West. Well, no, I'm sorry. By July 1st, not including the Collegiate West. And then July 15th, the Collegiate West is clear. That all the passes don't have snow and you can pass everything. This year, by July 1st, everything was clear. They were a whole 2 weeks ahead of time. So let's see, what was I? Oh, pack weight. Here's the comparison. So, you know, my base weight, 24.7 pounds is the weight without food and without water. So, you know, coming out of a resupply, you would have anywhere from 8 to 12 pounds per person, depending on how long you were going. The first section we planned for 9 days. We did it in 8, and that was the longest section. Now, ultralight backpackers or the lightweight backpackers are doing many more resupplies. They're doing it three or 4 days between resupplies, and we were doing 8, 7, 6s mostly. Someone asked the camera. I have an old Panasonic. I need to get a new camera because what happens is I get hot and it fogs up, which is sort of a pain. I had a Panasonic sort of a point and shoot camera, and my son had a GoPro. So that's the difference in some of the pictures. We took over 300 pictures and videos, so it was quite a bit changed. Okay, if you get lost, what do you do? Well, so do you carry a tracker? Well, I do carry a spot because I like to see what the trace is, and I can push a button on that if we got into serious trouble. But the tracker doesn't help you if you get lost. Now, gut hooks, it does use GPS, so you can see where you are relative to the trail if you get lost. So you have that. But if your battery's dead, that could be a problem. So I carry the National Geographic trail maps because then you get a bigger picture view of what's going on, and you can figure out where you are. Knowing how to use a map and compass is, I think, extremely important. You know, I didn't need it, but in this case, but you know, with all the fires that they had in California, and you know, the PCT had all kinds of fires. If you're up there and you need to get down, and the trail's blocked, it's really important to be able to figure out where you are and how to get down. And with a map with a little bit more, sort of a bigger view, in my opinion, it's easier to do. Someone asked if I wore hiking boots. Well, my son wore traditional hiking boots because that's what he wanted to do, and he was used to them, and he did that. And the first time I did it, I did that and tore my feet up the first 2 weeks and got blisters, and I was used to getting blisters, and that's just the way I thought it was supposed to be. About 2 years ago, I switched to, a lot of people use trail runners. There's a couple brands that are famous among the hiker community. You know, I like my Merrells. The Merrell Moab is perfect for my foot, and they lasted the 500 miles, and I've worn them practically every day since I got back, and they're just now ready to be replaced. In fact, I just got them in the mail, the new ones in the mail yesterday. So, you know, trail runners are great. Jane, you really want me to tell the buffalo story, huh? All right, I'll tell the buffalo story really quick. A few years ago, I did the South Dakota Centennial Trail, and it is a trail that goes for 111 miles down the Black Hills. And on the last day, you entered Custer State Park, and Custer State Park is one of the places that, like Dances with Wolves was filmed there with the buffalo, and they've got a buffalo herd. And if you remember Dances with Wolves and the way the land looked, that's what it looks like. So coming up a sort of a narrow canyon, and I take a left around a tree, and there's a bull buffalo, and all around you there's these circles that are completely bare. They're just like dirt. And he's sitting in this, and all the bull buffaloes do this. They go around and they lie on there to cool off. And I was probably 25, 30 feet away from him. So I took a picture of him, and now this is like a 2,000-pound animal. He jumped up. So I said to him, okay, I'm going. And I start walking down the trail, and he charged me. And the only thing I could think of was get my pack between me and him. So if he hits me, I've got some cushion. So I'm running as hard as I can away from him. And I took a hard right, and he blew past me and missed me. So he's now further down the trail than I am, and I have to go past him to keep going. So I start walking around him, and he squares on me and starts snorting at me. So I stopped, and I said, okay, what do I do now? Waited a couple minutes, and then I started again. He squared on me again. Now I'm really wondering what I'm going to do. And so I just sort of waited, and then he kind of just started looking somewhere else. And so I continued walking around, and he was thinking about something else by that time. So that was that's my buffalo story. So bulls do not like to be bothered in any way. Someone asked what Gut Hook is. Gut Hook, it's an app, and it's pretty cheap. You can get it for a lot of trails. The Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, and the PCT, I think, are the first 3 trails they have on it, and then the Colorado Trail's on there. And there's a way that you can see where you are on the trail. And it also has sort of a messaging feature that people can post where water is. So on the AT and the PCT, I know they use it a lot because there's a lot of people, and people are posting like, okay, water is good here and everything. I found that the Colorado Trail was not that great in terms of the messaging, because not enough people were putting in information about water. Water was easy to find. If the little trail guide that you can buy that has all the super lightweight, it's small, and you need that and the National Geographic maps, and I think nothing else. But that's what Gut Hook is, and you can download a free version. As far as water accessibility goes, I use a Cottonwood Hiker Pro pump. The Sawyer is the big thing out there, and if anybody's planning a through hike or looking at through hikes, you can. Any trail has a Facebook page about it, and there'll always be for a more travel trail, there'll be one, say, Colorado Trail 2020, Colorado Trail 2021, and you can get on there and see what people are doing. And what I found with equipment is that people will tell you, well, this is the best thing. And you really start to feel like, well, if I don't have that, I must be a loser. And people are going to make fun of me on the trail. And it's absolutely not true. In fact, even the things that you would think would be popular because of the recommendations, they aren't. Nobody says a word to you about your equipment, and everybody has different tastes. On this particular trip, I tried, because I wanted to try different things. I had the Hiker Pro, which is a pump. Problem with that is that you can the filter can get clogged, and so you have to backwash it. But if you're careful, it's not that big a deal. I also tried the Cottonwood Micro Pure tablets, which I really like because they don't taste like anything. And you can get it's a great backup because they're super light. And if your pump clogs or something. And then we also tried a steri pen, and we tried the, I forget the name of it at the moment, but they're drops, the 2-part drops. And those are okay too. The thing we didn't try was the Sawyer Squeeze, which is a big deal in the ultralight hiking because it's super light and you can screw it onto the top of a water bottle, regular water bottle that you buy at the supermarket or the gas station. I don't like them because what you do is you put dirty water in your bottle and then you squeeze through it, and I just am not interested in squeeze it through your filter. I'm just not interested in doing that. That's just my personal preference. The other thing is that if they freeze, they're done. So that's kind of a problem. So you always want to have something separate. Some of the ultralight hikers will not filter their water because they're thinking, well, I'm going to be done before I get sick. So this year, 3 FKTs, which is the fastest known time of the trip, were set. A woman, I think she took 10 days, supported. So there's supported, unsupported. So this guy, last name is Guimir, something like that. His trail name is Legend. He did it in 9 days and 8 hours, something like that. And he unsupported, meaning that he had all the food he needed for the entire trip on his back when he left. And he started in Durango, and it's a tremendous climb out of Durango. So, and he did it in 9 days, unsupported. Now he had a film crew that was following him, but in order to have a FKT count, you can't be unsupported. They couldn't even talk to him. So I'm looking forward to the video, whatever the film is they're making with that. Barb asked if you needed bear bags. We had a bear bag with us. Coming out of resupply, it was impossible to hang a bear bag because we had too much food. We would have needed a lot, and we really didn't. It's impossible to do a proper hang on the Colorado Trail. Really, it's hard. It's hard even in Vermont with lots of trees, because you have to be 12 feet away from the 12 feet up and 10 feet away from each tree, and it's impossible to do a proper hang. So we had a varmint bag that we would put up with stuff that was smellable, so that the mice and the pikas and the marmots and things couldn't get to it. But we didn't worry so much about bags. Someone asked, how was hiking with your son? It was phenomenal. We had done a thru-hike, 2 thru-hikes previous. And really that started because when he picked me up, he was 13, I think. He picked me up from the Centennial Trail in South Dakota, and we're driving around, and he said, I could have gone on that trip with you. And of course I thought, well, why didn't you tell me beforehand? So we did a small thru-hike, Loyalsock Trail, 65 miles to try it out. He liked it. And then we did the Northville Placid Trail, starting in Northville, New York, going all the way up through the Adirondacks to Lake Placid. That was 145 miles. And after that trip is when he said, I would like to do the Colorado Trail with you. And so I spent the entire year trying not to talk about it too much, thinking about it all the time. And then, of course, COVID hit, and I thought about it even more and wondered if we could even do the trail. The PCT has already canceled their permit season, the early permit season. Their next permit window is in January, and they don't know if they're going to do it. The Appalachian Trail Conference just came out a week or 2 ago and said they're suggesting people don't go on the trail. So a lot of people are still doing it. But As far as cooking, what do we eat? What I like to do is use dehydrated meals, and they come usually with, they will feed two, and then we would add supplements. So what we would do is send our dehydrated food and then go buy the supplements, you know, lunches or power bars and things like that. A lot of people, there are ultralight hikers who don't like to do the cooking. They'll cold soak, so they won't even take a stove. So they get a Talento, I think it's Talento ice cream, and they pour their dehydrated food in there and add water, and then they hike with it for a while, and it agitates up, and then that night they eat it cold. I'm not interested in doing that at this point. But if you're planning for a thru hike, like now, it's actually a little late, but now is when you start doing the food, in my opinion. Some people will freeze dry their own food and do all kinds of recipes and things, but if you want to buy the dehydrated meals, you can get them on sale, and usually 50% off if you watch. Also, bike stores and REI and even the supermarket, they periodically throughout the year will have sales on their power bars, Cliff bars or Kind bars, or you know, whatever you like. And I just had a rule that I wouldn't pay more than $1 for a bar, and whenever it went on sale to that level, like, you know, buy 5 for $5, I would do it. And you know, save a lot of money that way. Chip wants to know what my number one fear. My number one fear was not being able to finish the trail, getting hurt or something. Just, you know, not being able to do it for something that was out of my control. And that's really the, you know, even beforehand, the COVID thing, it was out of my control. And that was my number one fear. As far as water goes, someone asked about water sources. Yes, there's really not a problem. There's only 2 sections that are fairly dry. And I think it's like a total of 15 miles on the longest piece of it that there's no water. So, you know, Carol asked, how many calories do we plan to consume every day? Didn't get to that level of detail. We had we had the freeze-dried meal for dinner for sure. Often we had freeze-dried meal for breakfast. And then at lunch, we had various different things. But, you know, so like, you know, a packet of chicken or a packet of tuna and some crackers or some salami maybe. We met a girl that had done the John Muir Trail the year before, and she learned what she would do is cook. She had the same breakfast, the same lunch, and the same dinner every day. So we were eating lunch one day, and she pulled out salami and cheese and tortillas, and that was her lunch. We had a much more sort of diverse thing. We, you know, power bars, and so we had our main meal, and then we had what we called supplements. So, you know, we'd go in the store and get Justin's honey and almond peanut butter, or, you know, things like that. And just, if you were hungry, you ate it. If we were ahead of schedule, we got to eat a 2-person meal each. So, you know, and I didn't get the hiker hunger like John did. John got the hiker hunger in a big way and couldn't get enough to eat. And so I would often just let him have my extra bar or whatever else. So, no, we didn't plan the calories. We just sort of figured what we needed, and we were actually pretty good. We were walking into towns with a bar or 2 left, and that was it. So I see no more questions. All right, well, Jane, you want to take it back over?
Yes, I will. That was a great discussion that you had, Eric. I want to say Thank you so much. Hold on one second, guys. I had to charge that computer of mine. Let's see. Well, I would need to grab that host little thing from you. Eric.
Hang on. We need to switch back to you. You can't do it yourself, huh?
No.
All right. Let me see if I can find it. Panelists. Make host. There you go.
There we go. Thank you.
All right. I don't know. Maybe you can see me now.
Maybe. You see me?
I'm not sure. I see you.
All right. Well, Eric, I just want to say thank you so much for presenting your journeys on the Colorado Trail.
You're welcome. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
I think so. No one could really speak per se, but there were so many questions, I would say, that went around, and you answered so many of them. So thank you for that too.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Enjoy doing it.
So would you encourage anyone to try the Colorado Trail out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's definitely a great starter through hike trail because it starts relatively low. You can ease into it. You can get off if you have to. You know, the first 4 days, we saw a lot of people that came on and dropped off blisters. Jane, I think I was telling you the story about a couple and their daughter, and we saw her maybe the 4th or 5th day, and at a snack break, and how you feeling, and how are your feet? Because she was having bad blisters, and she said, "Well, I don't know. I've had so much Advil, I can't feel it." And a little ways down the trail, my son says to me, "Well, she's done," which was true. I mean, she really tried, and she was really super nice, and but she, you know, the blisters just got her.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed as I've hiked a bit is it might be a challenge from the terrain itself, but truly it is mentally. You have to tell yourself to keep going, even if things are easy on the legs.
Yeah, you have to, in my mind, you have to break it into small pieces and do it one bite at a time. The Collegiate West, a lot of people were afraid of doing it because it is higher. It's about 1,000 feet higher. There's a section where you're above 12,000 feet for the whole section. They're afraid of doing it because the altitude and it's harder. And I got to tell you that the trail was so well maintained and so well built out that it was just phenomenal. So.
I mean, those pictures told so many stories just looking at them. I mean, it's breathtaking, a little different from the East Coast.
The reason nobody can see me is because you have me blocked from sharing my video. So.
No way.
I don't know if you want to change that or not, but.
How do okay. I'm blocking you?
Yeah, it says, when I say start video, it says cannot start because the host has stopped it. So I don't know.
Well, guys, everyone, just blame me. Here we go. Let's see. I see here. Oh, I see it, but it's not letting me change. If I stop maybe your sharing, it might give that option. I'm going to try.
Yeah, I was just about to do that. Go ahead, try it now.
I did. Did that change anything? I can't see.
No, I don't think it changed anything.
Well.
Oh, well, I'll have to be anonymous.
I tried. I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay, I can't. But Eric, I wish I could give you that option. I'm not really sure. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. It was so much fun. And To everyone also watching, just so you know, again, this is Hanover Adventure Tours. We here are doing Adventure Talk series, and we're going to continue to do these in December as well. The next talk will be in December, I think December 10th, and it's going to be about the Appalachian Trail. So there's going to be a lot of other things going on. Again, we're looking to be the hub for adventure here. So thanks again. I hope you enjoyed the talk. And Eric, thank you again.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right. Bye, everyone.